Thank you very much for your very active participation, and our panelists have been very good in responding to you all. I just want to make a few points that we're all talking about building partnerships with a purpose to attract greater investments for promoting climate smart agriculture. So I think we must be very clear on that. And of course, Mr. Arindam talked about demystifying this phrase called climate smart agriculture. But many times these acronyms also try to capture a lot of spirit spread across so many domains. And so we have to give to the creator of those acronyms also. Yeah, but the points that we must remember is that we are talking about ensuring sustainable productivity and production, because that is one of the commitment that all of us have made as a part of the Sustainable Development Goals. And that has been done keeping in mind the needs of the growing population, large number of people who are still poor, large number of people who are not poor but are also not accessing nutritious food. So we need to keep the people in mind as we practice climate smart agriculture. The point I'm trying to make is that if we are able to find value for the people concerned, then there is a greater incentive for them to provide support to the delivery system. The second point that we are trying to address as a part of climate smart agriculture is mitigation. That means we reduce the quantity of greenhouse gases being emitted. So what do we do to do that thing? I think that's where a lot of intervention will be required. And the third aspect, of course, is to see that our resource use efficiency happens. And how do we bring in a cafeteria of technologies? Because it is extractive system of production in agriculture as elsewhere that has contributed to a large quantity of greenhouse gas emissions and therefore the climate change. Now, if we want to achieve this climate smart agriculture on all these three fronts, first thing, I think we must adapt this what is called circular economy. That is, we use it again and again instead of the end of term use of resources. And if that is to be done, can we all together identify where the wastes are happening? Today, the waste or food waste happening across the globe is so huge that the greenhouse gas emissions by the food wastage is more than the quantum of greenhouse gases that many other domains are actually producing. One of the estimates shows that if the greenhouse gas emitted by the food wasted in this world is counted, then that domain would rank as at number 4th after China, US and India, India in terms of the total greenhouse gases being contributed to climate change. And why is food being wasted? Only because we don't have good agri-logistics. We are growing not for consumption, we are growing to waste it. India itself, for example, 2012-13 study shows that 100,000 lakh crores worth of agricultural commodities got wasted because of poor agri-logistics. And I think private sector, along with government sector, can play a very important role in strengthening agri-logistics, storage, transportation, backhouses, aggregation platforms, etc., etc. Then what do we do for that? Since we are talking about crowding in investments through partnerships, the first thing that government has to do is to adopt a liberalized policy framework where the private sector is allowed to play its important role. So public sector and private sectors have to come together to fill this particular gap, and first, before producing more and charging the ecology in terms of resource use as well as contributing to greenhouse gases, how do we minimize this? And a policy framework, liberalized policy framework for investments from within the country, from outside the country, would be going a long way. So I think that is one way we should actually look at. Now, I was first talking about private-public partnership only because sometimes we tend to get confused between people's trust and the people who are meant to take care. All of us sitting here in a way are sitting on the delivery side. Stand up? Yes. Okay. We're all sitting on the delivery side. We're the delivery pipe. So how do we first arrange our own system? The NGOs, the private sector, the public sector, and everybody else who wants to do something, how do we create a platform so that we are able to have an efficient, effective delivery? And we together go to the people because they are receivers. The people would continue to receive on a sustainable basis provided they see value in what we are delivering. Many a time we fail to recognize their partnership, their stake in the process and create a value for them. So I think very clearly the delivery system and the receiving system have to understand each other and build a platform, a bridge so that we are able to work together for greater efficiency. The second point that I would like to make is that many a time we create institutions, but the institutions do not operate properly because all the partners there have not understood their respective roles. Let us take a very concrete example. For effective delivery of extension services, to practice climate smart agriculture, agroecology concerned agriculture, for efficient use of resources, since 2005-06 we have rolled out what is called as National Agriculture Technology Project, at which we have what is called ATMA, Agriculture Technology Management Agency. At the district level, all the public sector agencies, private sector agencies, NGOs are supposed to come together, prepare an action plan for agriculture at the village level, block level and the district level. During the pilot phase in Madhya Pradesh, it showed fantastic results. But no sooner did we scale it up, what we see today is that action plan goes from top to bottom. But then it gets signed from there and comes up. So for form's sake it is alright, but in substance it is not there. So how do we ensure that the people who come one after another understand the importance of this convergence of efforts, thoughts and minds? So that is one challenge that we must all actually address. And third, of course, is the technology. Yes, technology is very neutral. It's scale neutral, people neutral, area neutral. Since the situations are very complex, how do we bring in that technology deployment? We have enough of technologies today and they have shown that they are commercially viable also. But then, once again, I think we need a framework where the private sector is able to play a more important role supported by the government. So I think we should try to understand and answer this issue also. Let's say, take the concrete example of extension once again. So many technologies, let's say seed which is very basic to climate smart agriculture. We need a good seed which is more efficient user of water, more efficient user of nutrition, more resistant to biotic and abiotic stresses that are developing in the country. Now we have a very huge national agriculture research system in this country. Apart from our public sector, NAS, we also have private sector also doing a lot of research in agriculture. But then the various technology bouquets are not known to everybody else, are not accessible to everybody across the country. What is done in Delhi may not be known to somebody in Karnataka. What is done in Andhra may not be known to somebody in Uttar Pradesh. So we need now a technology online platform, a portal, simple portal, where every R&D producer, personnel, he actually after it is released posts it on that platform so that it is accessible. As we can do a net search today, they should be able to do a search there and say this technology is there, I do a simple adaptation study in my area and see whether it is applicable. So I think it is possible for us if we break the barriers. secretaries. Every year, a group of secretaries of the related domains sit together and try to see where the overlap is there, where they can actually put their thoughts together. It was one of such group of secretaries meeting which thought about promoting micro-irrigation at a larger scale. Apart from budgetary allocations, can we also mobilize non-budgetary resources? And that's how the corpus fund was created under the NEBARD to speed up the coverage under the micro-irrigation. So it is possible for private sector and public sector this way to actually come together. So we now need to start having a convergence. Last point, let me end up because there is not much of a time. Now we have identified 151 districts in the country which are supposed to be extremely vulnerable to the climate change. And National Rainfed Area Authority has been tasked to prepare comprehensive action plans and very clearly told that you are not going to get extra money. You see how to converge the resources. Now we find there is a lot of money actually, frankly speaking. But being a government agency, we ourselves find it so hard to get the state government, the district administration, leave that. Our different divisions within our own ministry to say that this money I am reserving for this drought proofing. So it requires an internal champion who is able to pursue, persuade, motivate, make them understand, articulate it and bring them all together. So ultimately I think as we build institutions, we should also identify internal champions wherever they are to actually take it forward, particularly at the initial stage. At the initial stage, if these internal champions are able to take that forward, then I think we would have shown that this is a success, and then success itself will start feeding greater desire for application. So I think there is a lot of scope. So we in India particularly, rather than speak of policies and concepts and contexts which we are very good at from the civilizational times, our biggest